just rallied from a 21-point deficit to beat the Storm in both teams' openers tonight at 7:30 down at the Staples Center. Those are your headlines.
All right, Elise, thanks very much. Turning to with Gas and Elise in the afternoon. We'll check on 2 baseball stories. We'll head out to St. Louis in just a few minutes. But first out to New York City. We have not checked on the New York Mets yet on Turning 2. Can you believe that? We've gone all this way and we have not checked on the New York Mets. And our guest is a young man who I met at the Super Bowl this year, Zach Gelb, who does a talk show on DARPA TV. .com, and Zach got my attention because, among other things, he's close personal friends with Adam Sandler, as I found out when I was at the Super Bowl. So he's kind enough to join us from New York City tonight. Now, are you old enough to buy a liquor drink yet, kid?
No, I'm not. I'm only 17 years old. I haven't even entered college yet, but I will say this. As you guys are doing a show tomorrow out of a freezer, I thought it was rough spending some time with you at Radio Row. I feel bad for Elise tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not going to be. That's right. If we took you with us, if we took him to freezing for a reason, he wouldn't be able to sit in the beer cooler with us. This guy's 17 and he's running his own talk show, for Pete's sake. At least I figure we better be nice to him because we might be working for him someday.
That's probably true.
Hey, Zach, bring us up to date on the Mets. They got off. It was funny because they've been under the radar compared to the Dodgers, who's had everything out in the open with the McCourt thing. But the Mets were a mess too, and maybe still are a mess in the wake of the Madoff scandal and all that. And yet they had the best start imaginable. They came out, won some games, and got people a little excited. But they have more than come back to the pack. What's the assessment of them 7 weeks in?
Very positive start by the New York Metropolitans, as you just mentioned. Going into the season, I'm a Mets fan, and I talked to many Mets fans on my talk show, and expectations weren't high whatsoever. Many people were saying this team was going to win 70 games. My number for this team going into the year was somewhere between 76 to 80 wins. And they got off to a hot start. They're hitting. There's some issues right now, what to do with Ike Davis. The bullpen has been terrible. I've never seen a closer get so quickly to 10 saves and be pitching to like almost a 9 ERA that Frank Francisco has been pitching to. But you look at the Mets, they're just going to take them as they come. The starting pitching, it's been positive. I know Johan didn't get the win last night, and they did blow a 4-0 lead, but it's positive to see what we are seeing so far out of number 57, R.A. Dickey. He's pitching well, the knuckleball, which has been a great story. I just look for the Mets, if they go at the end of June and they are 500, that's a win for me. But we'll see what the Mets are made out of in the next month.
Hey, tell me what David Wright has been able to do. He's hitting .415 right now with 4 home runs and 25 RBI. We all know that David Wright is, one of the better players in Major League Baseball, but good Lord have mercy, he's playing well. What's going on with David Wright?
David struggled the minute when they moved into Citi Field. He wasn't his old self when he had that injury where he got hit in the head by Matt Cain at Citi Field. So many people were worried about David Wright. I really believe that you're seeing a motivated David Wright this year. It is a contract year. A lot of people don't think the Mets will give him the big dollars. But, hey, if they want people to come out to that ballpark, which people haven't been going out to this year, I think they rank 18th or 15th in attendance. They got to pay David Wright. You lose Jose Reyes, we understand that. You lose David Wright. I don't know what kind of message you're sending to that fan base, but you look at what Wright's doing right now. He's one of the best players in baseball. He's hitting well over 400. He has 5 home runs. He's driving in runs, and he's really the leader of this team. Terry Collins, the manager of the Mets, should name him captain. They haven't done that yet, but David Wright is the leader of this team. He's been here for many years, and he's off to a great start. He's seeing the ball great, and that's great news for the Mets.
Hey, Zach, what was the fallout of his deal? I think it was Terry Collins pulled him out of a game to avoid getting him beaned, and Wright got kind of mad about it. A lot of times in New York, the back pages will blow something like that up, and it becomes a big thing. It feels like this blew over pretty quick. What was the backstory, or what was the full story on that?
Well, both of them handled it like gentlemen. They talked it out like men, and that's what Keith Hernandez, who does the Mets games here in New York, with Gary Cohen and Ron Darling, he was saying, what we're seeing, the yelling right now, it's not yelling of words of animosity. They're settling this out men-to-men, manager to player. But what happened was DJ Carrasco, he beamed the player in a blowout game. It was 8-0. The Mets had no business in that game, and Collins to this day doesn't even know why Carrasco was beating the player, and he was designated for assignment eventually because he wasn't producing on the field. And then they were going to send David Wright up to the plate, but then they figured retaliation would happen, and with the injury past to David Wright getting beamed by a ball by Matt Cain a few years ago, Terry said, you know what, David, it's going to be your time someday that you are going to have to take a hit, but I'm not risking my star player who's hitting over 400. That is why they pulled David Wright. But it's really blown over quickly. The two of those men handled it out very easily, and I think that really is a big key to David Wright's personality, that he is a team player first.
Hey, I look at R.A. Dickey. He's a former Seattle Mariner back in 2008, and he's 5-1 with the Mets with an ERA at 3.75. I mean, this guy, how old is he now? What is he, 37, 38 years old? R.A. Dickey, he's getting it done out there. What's going on with him?
You know, I was listening to a radio show earlier today, and they were talking about R.A. Dickey, and there's a movie coming out, a documentary about the knuckleball with himself and Tim Wakefield. And they said this guy could pitch for another 5 to 10 years. You know, he's young for a knuckleballer, so you could see another Tim Wakefield coming. But, you know, Yohan hasn't been here for the last few years because of injuries. R.A. Dickey has been the Mets' most consistent starter. He's 5-1, like you mentioned. They struggled to get him wins last year. But the guy has really become a big-time piece in this rotation, and you have to like what you're seeing out of R.A. Dickey. And this guy's going to be here for many years to come. He's just dominating right now.
Zach, great to hear your voice again. We appreciate you doing this, and I'll just give you one piece of career advice. If you get Torts on your show, have a lot of questions. 10, 12, 15 pages.
Well, we have Doc Emmerich on the show tomorrow from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but I'll say this. You know, there's some method behind the man's madness, and we'll see what the Rangers are made out of tomorrow night. I appreciate the time, my friends.
Thanks, Zach.